Hello and welcome in DDM.FM podcast. Hello, Bob. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your company is doing right now?
Sure. So my name is Bob Sybydlo. I'm the Senior Director of CRM and AI in MarTech with Inverted Digital. Inverted Digital is a CRM consultancy focused on MarTech, and we work with a variety of clients actually in all over the world, mainly North America, Europe, some in Asia, and we help clients achieve their business goals, mainly their marketing business goals, through the use of technology. So that's optimizing the technology, implementing it, using it to its fullest potential.
And like you probably know, on the DDM.FM podcast, we like to talk about the problems solved using data. So I have to ask, what's your problem? Basically, what you do to solve this problem?
So let me break that down into two groups. So the one problem with data is always not having enough or not having the right data. And when it comes to data, mainly, especially in MarTech, it's about customer identification and getting people to identify who they are. What do we know about them? What did they buy? What did they visit? What did they do? What did they then do, etc. So that's the first problem. The second part is, to put it simply, is like a knowledge gap of what can be achieved or how do we get there. And a lot of businesses that we work with actually experience what we call decision fatigue. It's just there's so many things you want to achieve, but where to begin? If I want to do more with data, I need to talk to this team and they have their initiatives. So there's a lot of putting together plans that I find we end up doing a lot of, just helping people make the right decision that will help them immediately, because that's very important, but also is in line with where they want to get to. So you're not doing things that are just for now.
And how did you start to solving these problems?
Well, we always start off by coming in and we'll do an audit. That can be a large audit, a small audit, or really it starts with a discussion, because we really need to understand what are the challenges and what are your business goals, and then we can figure out what's in the middle. So it really does start with, what is the technology that you currently have? Because I don't work for a major technology company, I don't have to sell any particular product. So I do try to come at it as, let's see what you can do with the technology you have. Are there limitations? And if there are limitations, what technology would you want to consider? Sometimes the case is we want to upgrade our platform anyway. What would you recommend? And that's a little bit different. But again, it just starts off with a discussion. What are your current problems? Where are you trying to go? Let's fill in the middle.
And how much time do you usually need to basically do this audit?
That could take, depending on how deeply we're getting into their system. So if we're getting system access, we try to have everything wrapped up within 4 to 6 weeks. We usually say within 4 to 6 weeks, we can get into systems, audit what we need to, meet with stakeholders, et cetera. But on the shorter end, within a week, we can really kind of get a good picture of what's going on. It really depends on the availability of access, of systems, and of the people that we need to talk to. Because sometimes it's just hard to get the time with them to kind of talk about what they're doing.
And what is happening after the audit? What are the next steps?
So coming out of the audit, what we'll do is we'll include not just here's what we found, here's what you told us, here's where we want to get to, but concrete next steps. So I like to break it down into individual projects, and I'll put them in a timeline, saying let's start with these things. Let's start by doing data cataloging or process cataloging, whatever it might be, and then building solutions, and then iterating, and then building documentation, and then training. They'll all be steps sort of laid out. So I try to break it down into almost like individual projects that are all connected, but just so we can break them up and spread them between the different teams we might be working with, or the different sort of initiatives, the pathways that they'll take. So some are data, some are technology related, some are CRM related, some are marketing related, whatever it may be.
And how the timeline looks like in these projects? Like, how much time do you need on this particular things to do?
Right. Well, depending on, each initiative will have its own timeline. So I'd like to break them down into phases. Maybe it'll be a month or 3-month phase, or if we're doing something very large, which we often have those projects on the go at the same time, that could be 6-month engagement. We do try to kind of put some guardrails, boundaries on the project, so that we can then resize. Do we need to add team members or remove team members? And do we need to change what we're doing? So we do try to I would love to sign a contract saying, for the next 3 years, we'll do this, but that's just not logical. That's not realistic. And to bring another element into the conversation, a lot of businesses that we work with, really what they want to get out of it is not to have someone do it for them endlessly, but for someone to help them, and then for them to do it themselves. So having shorter project windows allows us to constantly reevaluate with the client. Where are they? How much progress have they made? How much work can they take on, so that we can then balance out and then put our attention onto other things. And then typically, we're doing more work, they're doing less work, and then we sort of balance out about here. where we're continuing being that group that's pushing new initiatives, pushing new projects, and helping them continuously grow while they're handling the business as usual, the day-to-day.
Can you give me some examples of clients, projects, and the end results of this projects?
Sure. So a good example that really comes to mind is we're working with a very large financial institution here in Canada, and they wanted to, they're being a financial institution, they have a lot of data. So they wanted to use a lot of the data that they had, marketing data that they had, to do more personalized communications, right? So what that meant in their case was developing an email template or series of templates that had modular content blocks, and then you would see a different version of the email than I would see, and switching from a batch and blast model to a trigger-based model. So we not only did we build the template that's like stacking Lego blocks on top of each other so that it can change any way you'd like, but we also built the intelligence system behind that every day runs through the client database and says, okay, Bob should see, email 30 in the lifecycle journey. You should see email 5 version B in this, and it compiles that list, sends it to the ESP, and sends all those out. So we built all that. And over time, their development team was able to take over the development of the blocks, the maintenance, the QA, all those things. And then that gave us more freedom and flexibility to then move into pushing the data automations forward and eventually into AI and things like that. So it was a very successful project. That took about a year.
Yeah, and how did you find what exactly to send? What were the signals you look for, in the creation or decision-making process to send this particular email and not some other email?
It's just looking at your reporting. So example, if you have a welcome series, you sign up to a program or again, a financial institution, and you get a welcome series of emails. You get 1, 2, 3 emails. If the engagement on that third email is really high, maybe it's time for a fourth, right? If you notice that the engagement on that last email is really low, maybe you don't need it. Maybe we can put that effort somewhere else. So it really is just looking at customer feedback endlessly. And that is a great source of data. And I try to break data into analytics like that into 2 groups. There's good analytics, which is like people responding, but then there's also bad analytics. What are they not clicking on? What are they not engaging with? What products are they not buying? How can we change those things, right? So always looking at it in 2 different directions, from the top and from the bottom.
And while working on these projects, what are or were usually the biggest obstacles you faced? Like maybe some kind of issues with data availability, maybe some kind of technical challenge?
So that's a great question. Data availability is always a challenge. And let me see here. So let's just to talk about that for a moment, because the problem with data availability is, especially there's sensitive data, right? I was just talking about a financial institution, but everyone has sensitive data. But thinking of data to power MarTech, when you think of MarTech generally, marketing programs now, you're only as good as your data is, right? So MarTech is, the more an organization can see MarTech as a function of marketing rather than as a function of the technology team, because the technology team has processes, they have the things they do, but the marketing team needs their data immediately so they can react to it and act on it, and so they can automate and deliver those personalized experiences. So as MarTech generally becomes more of a function of marketing and less so of technology, which is a bit of an oxymoron, I find that does help things. But these are all just challenges that all businesses just have to face. And I'm not saying that that's the solution, that a marketing team should own MarTech. I'm just saying that they should have a big stake in how data flows, how they access data, and the entire organization's responsibility to know that the marketing team needs that data right away. So what do we need to do to make sure that they have it so that they can do their jobs? And as you start removing those hurdles, those boundaries, or we start thinking, leveling up our thinking in that, then those decisions can be made, and you'll get progress.
And speaking about the progress, and maybe speaking a little bit about the past also, what would you do differently if you are about to maybe start some projects from the past, having all this knowledge that you have right now?
I would get everybody into a room. Meeting with teams individually is fine, but I'd get everybody into a room and just be like, let's all look at each other and say, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve? And let's come together. Let's come to a plan together on, here's the problem, here's how we need to face it. How are we all going to work together? And it's important when we do stakeholder interviews and siloed interviews that we do have nice, effective conversations with people. But at some point, getting the people together and saying we're all going to work together and align on this solution so that they're all working towards the same goal, I think makes a lot of difference. Because, and I hate to say it, but you do also along the way will encounter personalities, or you'll encounter people who have strong opinions on things, and it's important that we're sort of working together. So I think being a people person and being a mediator within all that, I don't mean to use a strong word like that, but just being that person who can help bridge those gaps is an important part of the work that I do, an important part of the job, because we have to understand that goal.
And what about specific tools or platforms you used in this project? Do you think like something helped you along the way in some significant way?
I've always come at things, and we generally do come at things agnostically. So, again, whatever projects whatever tools that you're using, we'll work with. I think all the various tools out there, especially within MarTech, have their strengths and have their weaknesses. Within business visualization, they have their strengths and weaknesses. Data hosting, whatever it may be, they have strengths and weaknesses. So, in terms of tools, like individually, I believe in like collaboration. So I do enjoy working in Google Docs, working in SharePoint, somewhere where two people can be in something at the same time and we can work together. Just those little things make a big difference. But I don't have a preference on platforms generally. I just believe that it's not the tool, it's how you use it. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Okay. And speaking a little bit about the future, like what do you think will change in the customer data platform in the upcoming years?
CDPs, I think, are it's going to be a big change in how CDPs are being used. CDPs, my opinion on CDPs was always that is meant for when you don't have a data team that can be at your disposal to run the data queries that you need. When you don't have that, then you want that CDP team and the CDP there, so that you have a place to centralize data and you have tools for people to go in, and I mean less technical people to go in, run queries and look at lists. So where this is then going is, as marketers or as people who want to work with that data and to understand their data, again, for analytics purposes or whatever it may be, begin using these platforms, they get more power to understand segments and to activate segments and to activate on intelligence and all that. So where that then goes is, how can I then do that activation? How then can I use this segment that I built to send an email or to make a website change or to develop a segment or whatever it may be? So I think that's just the next step in a way of empowering more people to do more with less, because our tools are getting smarter. Less hands-on coding, technical knowledge is required. But I think that where this is then going to go is we're going to have people, we would want people with cross skills. So, a marketer who is also an analyst, right? A programmer who's also a database programmer or also a front-end developer. Just people who have these cross skills, because then you're truly doing everything, right? You're a campaign manager and a database developer, right? Not both 100%, but you can do both really well because the tools have gotten that much smarter. So I think that is just the next logical step in where we're going with technologies. We're just empowering people to do more with less. AI is a perfect example of where that's going. So that's definitely where the winds are blowing. And I think it's important for businesses to realize that and help empower their people to do more.
And why do you think like customer data platforms are important to the businesses? Like why they should use it?
Really, it is situational, but mainly it's really that. It's just because a customer data platform is designed to be an easy interface in most cases to look at your data, query data, whatever it may be. So you don't need the deep understanding of programming, of database design, of all that to harness the power of your data or to move your data from one platform to another. The CDP should be able to do that for you. And as technology ecosystems get more complex, allowing more people to be able to do more with that will just empower more people to get things done. So as data becomes the most powerful asset that a business has, being able to use it and having more people that can use it is what's going to empower your business to constantly move forward and do things like automate, personalize, and look ahead. So, it's just, why have just a few people who can work with data? If I have more people that can work with data, I'll get more results.
Awesome. And on very practical level, like, how are you personally using AI in your day-to-day work? Like, do you have kind of specific prompts, approaches that proven particularly effective?
So my thoughts on that are, I use a lot of generative AI all the time, but I'm also helping a lot of businesses implement it on their side. So my quick example of that is, if you've ever seen improv comedy, right? You go to see any sort of improv comedies, right? Basically, if you think of a scene where a person imagine a man is crying. That's not funny. Now let me give you context. A man is crying because he crashed his car into a produce store. And now there's humor. Now it's funny. So it's the context that you're providing. So for me, when I'm using AI, when I'm working with clients, or even for myself, if I'm using it to help me riff on a project or come up with ideas to help move a project along, how you structure the context. Like, I need this information. This is why. This is what I'm going to do with it. Here's where I got this information. Here's an example of what I want. Those prompts and how you structure that will make those outputs that much more effective. And it's about just making it more and more malleable and working it until you find really what works for you. And then that will help work the business forward. But it's all about content.
Nice. I like this analogy. And finally, like based on your experience, like what advice would you give someone who is looking to using data more efficiently in their business?
I guess the most important thing first of all, is organization, right? Keep a clean desk, right? A clean desk is a clean mind. I've heard that before, but its organization is key. And then every opportunity that you have to collect data is a good opportunity to do so. So to bring it back to email for 1 second, if you're going to send an email, why not have 2 versions with different subject lines? If why not have 2 segments? Always be testing and collecting that data, collecting that information, creating little points where people can give you data, inform on themselves. Anything like that is good because you want to build those customer profiles. And if you have a business that doesn't necessarily have an opportunity to collect as much data, create those avenues where you can on your website, through social, whatever it may be, to collect that information, because all that is going to help you inform not just what you should be serving your customers, but how are people perceiving your business, your products, and what you do. And that's going to help drive what next year looks like or how you evolve your business. So just collect anywhere and everywhere without being rude or in your face about it, because that will go the other way. Like pop up, what's your favorite color? Like, right.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you